Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to see everyone survive the heat wave that we had on Tuesday. Welcome to the Business, Finance, and Justice Committee meeting. Today is July 21st, 2022. I call this meeting to order at 3 p.m. Invocation, Representative Mark Randolph.
Lord God, our Creator, we thank you for today. Thank you for all your blessings, for your love, for your mercy, Lord, for your protection, for your guidance and your directions, Lord. We ask that you just be with us, that you walk through these times with us, Lord, and that you would show us favor, Lord, and the decisions that we might make would be pleasing to you. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Representative Randolph. Roll call, Legislative Clerk April Lindsay.
Patrick Freeman. Sandra Golden.
Present.
Randall Hicks.
Present.
Thomasine Yahola Osborne.
Present.
Mark Randolph.
Present.
Patrick Freeman. Madam Chair, you got 4 present and 1 absent.
We have 4 present, 1 absent. This constitutes a quorum. All business conducted will be official. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of June the 9th, 2022. Committee, I'll entertain a motion when you're ready.
Madam Chair, make a motion to approve the minutes 6/9/22 with any necessary changes as necessary.
We have a motion from Representative Hicks to approve the minutes with any changes necessary.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman. Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. The minutes of June 9th, 2022 are approved. Next item on the agenda is order of business. TR 22-120. A tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation confirming the nomination of Shane Hullaby to serve as tribal administrator of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph. Co-sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Representative Randolph.
Mr. Holby, could you come down, please?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hullaby. Will you provide a brief summary of who you are and your experience with the position you've been nominated for, please?
Well, I've been with the nation since 1999, and I've worked myself up from the JTPA program. I've created a couple departments, and when I met y'all back in December, when I first took the role, I couldn't answer very many questions about IT and HR. But now I've been working closely with them. We've been trying to increase trainings. We've been looking at better ways to secure the network. And I believe that we're going in the right way to build a better team. We're getting stronger every day.
Thank you, Mr. Hullaby. Any questions? Representative Randolph.
I'd just like to say in the 10 years that I've been on council, I've seen Mr. Hullaby, and we'd always look at the budget time, and I see him as a visionary. He's always went above and beyond the call of his duty. Never did he just do the minimal. I've always seen him as someone that's going to work more. He's been innovative. He's been creative. He's created services for our people that no one asked him to do. So I want to say it's an honor to be the one to put your name forward, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative Randolph. Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No questions for Mr. Hullaby. I'm in full support. As Representative Randolph stated, just seeing the work that the gentleman has done is supersedes some of the things that the tribe has asked for. He does go above and beyond, and I do appreciate it. Not only for the tribe, he does help a lot of our citizens outside. So, just wanted to say thank you, Shane. And Chief, don't want to put you on the spot, but can I ask you a question? Actually, I just want to give you some time, Chief, to let us know why you chose Mr. Hullaby for this position.
Well, after looking at a lot of the tribal administrator, I just had to look within. I knew Shane, as serving on the council, what he did as when he was GSA manager in Fleet, and a lot of the ideas that he brought to grow his department. And after talking to him, the ideas that he had, and you can see during the ice storm, the heat, the commitment that he put forth to the nation on trying to do better, make the department grow. He still have a lot of ideas what he wants to do. And as Shane said, when he first stepped in, not knowing all the IT process, but it's the managing part that he's done. You don't have to know all the ins and outs, but to manage the people that he has. And that's what he's done. He's done a great job, and totally support his nomination. I think Shane's done a great job, and just looking forward to what he can do.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chief. Representative Randolph.
I'd just like to add also, since the Tiger administration, there's been seven different people in this position.
I'm the eighth.
Yeah,
I've had eight. I'm the eighth boss for IT and HR and GSA, fleet, facilities. We haven't had any stability to where we can actually grow in the way we need, and we need that now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. What we're going to do, Mr. Hullaby, is we're going to vote here. So let's go ahead and do that. Roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
No.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 2 in favor and 1 against.
We have 2 in favor, 1 against. That TR 22-120 passes. Mr. Hullaby, what we're going to ask you to do is the committee's requesting you attend pre-agenda on Saturday, July 30th at 9 a.m. It'll be here. You'll appear before the full council, and questions from the full council will be addressed then.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
TR 22-121, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation confirming the nomination of Mary Mnge as a tax commissioner of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion, Representative Randolph.
Is Ms. Mnge? Come on down, please.
Ms. Mnge, we're going to ask you to do exactly what Mr. Hullaby did. If you'll provide a brief summary of who you are and your experience with the position you've been nominated for, please.
Okay. Thank you, Chair and committee and council who's attending here and on the call. First of all, I'd like to thank Chief Hill for nominating me for this position. It's an honor to even be selected as a possibility, be able to continue to serve this great nation. First, my name's Mary Mnge. I've worked with you for a while now. I've been here actually a year, and it's been an exciting time. But I have been in tribal taxation for about 25 years now. I have worked for 4 different tribal nations. I consult with tribal nations. I hold a national chair position for the National Intertribal Tax Alliance, which works strictly with tribal taxation throughout Indian country with training and serving all of our tribal nations. Since I have been here, when I came in and as the deputy tax commissioner, reviewing all of the codes and looking at all the administration, there was a lot of opportunities, and you know that as council. Since I have been here, we have reviewed the motor vehicle, which is Title 36, and we've made some good changes to that. We're able to serve our citizens more, give them more options. We now have boat tags, we have handicap placards, and of course, the latest legislation that was passed was to be able to serve all of our citizens within the state of Oklahoma and offer them a tribal tag. We are working on a sales tax amendment. There'll be some legislation coming next month. I was hoping to get in this month, but it'll be here in August, which will expand our sales tax. We are also looking at some other opportunities with some new taxes, and some of them will be the first time that a tribal nation has even done this, and some are already doing it, and I think it's something that the nation needs and should have. It will help grow not only with our sovereignty, but with generating revenue. But while I'm here, I just want to give you a brief update. Since I have been here, we have divided the Office of the Tax Commission into two different departments. It's now motor vehicle and tax, which I think is going to help set the office for continuing growth with the nation. And it is proving to be very advantageous, because motor vehicle, we have a director that oversees all the motor vehicle, and we're able to grow. We have now, when I came in, we had the central office here in Okmulgee. We had Wetumpka, which we were open 1 day a week. Now we have our central office. We have Wetumpka that's open 2 days a week now, and we've recently opened the Okemah office. And since we've been open at Okemah, we opened on July 5th, we have already served 94 citizens. That is amazing, actually. I mean, I knew it was needed, but I'm excited to see these numbers, and I know you are too. Since we passed our legislation for our citizens to be able to get tags throughout the whole state of Oklahoma, that was on June 1st. We have served 418 off the reservation citizens. And so I think this is something to be proud of. I think it's something that was needed, and I'm excited to continue that growth. And we are working on the Coweta office as well as the Jinx. We've hit a few little bumps in the road, but we are going to, we're shooting for a September 1st opening of those two offices. It could be before, but I want to say September 1st to make sure that we have everything in order. So that's what I wanted to do, was just give you a brief update as well while I'm up here, and just to let you know that all of the positions that were posted for the growth, we hired all Muskogee Creek citizens for those positions. We brought new jobs to our people, and I think that is amazing as well. You have an outstanding team in the tax commission. They work hard. They are dependable. They're excited about the growth, and they've jumped right in because we don't have the other two offices open. We are really, really busy at the central office, and even the new ones we brought in and trained, they just hopped right in. They're doing tags. You know, they're growing fast, learning fast. So I just want to commend them, because without a good team, we don't grow, we don't serve our citizens. And so I just wanted to thank them as well, that this last year has been awesome working with them. I have two good directors. We have great supervisors and they're Creek citizens that were promoted up as we grow. So a a lot of good things happening in the tax commission, and I appreciate the opportunity to be the deputy tax commissioner for the past year. And if it be the will of the council, I'll serve as your tax commissioner, continue to work hard and even harder to make sure that things continue to grow and our code is where it needs to be so that this nation can continue to assert their sovereignty and authority.
Thank you, Ms. Mnge. Committee, any questions? Representative Randolph.
I'd just like to thank Ms. Mnge for all her hard work. And one of the reasons I was glad to be able to sponsor you and bring your name forward is you've always been positive, you're very thorough, and I like your fighting spirit. I like the fact that you're going to stand grounds. When people come and push and shove, I don't see them pushing you, so I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Randolph. Ms. Golden, any questions? Oh, sorry.
I'm so sorry. Oh gosh. I'm so sorry. I'm still fighting this crud.
Oh gosh.
I have not seen a job description and or an organization chart for the tax commission. So I don't know how many employees that you have, Ms. Mnge, and you know what the makeup is actually. But you know, I see your credentials, and I too am very impressed with your spirit that you want to move and you want to go forward and be in a positive way. What I would like to, I guess, I've never seen any reports or who you report to or how you develop your plans, your business plans when you're going to move forward. How do you do all of that?
Thank you, and I hope you get well soon. We have meetings. I consult with our attorney that we work with and the chief of staff, and our tribal administrator. We have discussions on new taxes. We have meetings. We plan it out. We talk about the opportunities. I work with our attorney and do extensive research on everything that we present to the committee and council. I will make sure that you get our chart, everything. I wasn't aware you didn't. I thought I had that when we did the expansion of the offices. I thought I had an organizational chart in there. But I will absolutely get you another copy. And we are continuously having meetings internally, and I communicate with our chiefs and attorney. And you are more than welcome. Any of our council reps are welcome to call me anytime. I talk to several of you often when there's questions or concerns. I am always available to meet with you and to explain anything. And even when we have ideas, and if you have ideas, I would love to hear them and work personally with you. Our best ideas come from our citizens and from our people. So with that, I will get you the information that you've asked for that you didn't have, the job description. And as far as a business plan, we did put together those for the last legislation, but I will absolutely put something together for you as well. I know we put together reports for our quarterly, which we send in, which updates on all of the revenue that's brought in, any changes that we're doing, any new taxes that we're talking about. So I'm more than happy to send one directly to the council if you would like. I have no problem doing that, and so that you are aware of how we're growing and where we're at.
Ms. Golden, are you good?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to say that it may be just me because I'm a new person on the block, and maybe I should have known some of these things. And I really appreciate Ms. Mnge and, you know, saying that she's more than willing to work with us, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Hope you get to feeling better soon. Ms. Mnge, we're going to go ahead and take a vote, and if it's approved, then we'll move you on to the pre-agenda. But before we do that, I just wanted to reiterate what the representative said here, and also that you acknowledge your staff. I appreciate that. Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. TR 22-121 passes. Thank you, Ms. Mnge. TR 22-122, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the executive branch to prepare and submit grant applications to federal and state governmental agencies and private foundations for both FY 2023 and FY 2024, and authorizing the principal chief to execute all necessary grant documents. Sponsor, Representative Randolph.
Motion to pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Representative Randolph.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we have Mr. Harjo come forward, please?
Mnge, Council. So this is a pretty straightforward piece of legislation or request. We typically put these in because of the Planning and Grants Department. Every few years, they like to have like a kind of a general resolution that allows them to apply for certain grants and all that. Typically, the agency determines if they need specific legislation to apply for a grant from a tribe. And in those situations, that's when we bring it before council. But anything less than that, we typically use a kind of the standard legislation to get it passed forward to allow for a more timely submission of the grants.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online?
Question.
Representative Golden.
So, Mr. Harjo, do we already have one of these in place for the past 2 years?
Yes, we had one, and I don't remember the tribal resolution off the top of my head, but we've certainly used it before when submitting grants. And this is just a continuation for the next 2 fiscal years.
And so what we have, when sometimes we have these emergency meetings and we have to approve someone to submit a grant like through Miranda Carmen's office or through housing, that doesn't go through that grants and planning process?
No, because unfortunately for those grants that we have to bring to council, as part of the agency's requirements that we have specific legislation for that grant. This resolution will take care of, I would say, a majority of the grants that don't have specific requirements for legislation from the tribe.
Just one comment, last comment, and that is that it seems like a great idea. So, you know, like it saves time. At the same time, I see that it might cause a problem with budgeting and some of the program requirements that we don't have a paper trail on. And then when they come up, we don't know whether to support them or not because we hadn't seen that project. I'm not sure if you understand what I mean, but that's just my concern about it. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand the concern and thank you for raising that. I would just say that we've passed these resolutions before and it doesn't seem to present an issue. The only issue that typically arises is when we don't have this in place and we have to bring every grant application before council no matter what.
Ms. Golden, are you okay with the answer?
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, any more questions? Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online? Roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. 22-122 is approved. Thank you, Mr. Harjo. TR 22-123, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation allowing the principal chief to execute grant awards and cooperative agreements with general terms and conditions for fiscal years 2023 and 2024. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph.
Second.
Second from Representative Hicks. Discussion? Representative Randolph?
I'd like to call Mr. Harger back up, please.
So this piece of legislation is pretty much the backside of it. So when the grant doesn't require specific legislation to obligate the funding, and instead allows kind of a general resolution, it helps speed up the process. Of course, a number of grants do require that we have specific legislation put in place to obligate the funding, and those are the grants that we have to bring to council for approval before we set up the budget and everything like that. But this type of general tribal resolution, like I said, allows us to move a little bit more quickly and start spending the money and getting the program services and functions out in a more timely fashion.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. Any questions from the committee?
Madam Chair,
Representative Golden?
I may be misunderstanding this, but it looks like what it says is the chief has the, through the executive, there are some agreements about the funding, and this is going to give that executive office that approval to make those agreements without coming to the council. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Harjo?
Yes, essentially, this is like a very similar measure when the grant doesn't require specific legislation. When we're awarded that the tribe create legislation to obligate the funding, it allows the executive office to kind of speed things up. So this is just a similar measure to the Tribal Resolution 22122. If and when we're awarded and the grant doesn't require specific legislation from the National Council, we're able to obligate the funding a little bit quicker and execute the grant cooperative agreement.
Okay, thank you. I just, again, to me, there's just a problem with checks and balances, but that was all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Harjo, on these general terms and conditions, is there a cap as far as the amount of the grants awarded that could go through this? Maybe that's what Ms. Golding is getting at or alluding to as well.
I'm not aware of an actual cap. What I would say is that a lot of the grants that this applies to are going to be lower in the actual award amount. Typically, anything that is larger than, I would say, $50,000. They're more, the agency, whoever's awarding it, requires often specific legislation. And I guess I could suggest, if this moves out of the committee, there could be a similar function where all of the grants that do not require specific legislation to be obligated, we could provide reports and updates to them. That way there's some sort of accountability to the council.
Okay, that's what my next question was going to get to. But thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions or concerns? Roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
No.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 2 in favor and 1 against.
We have 2 in favor, 1 against. TR 22-123 passes. TR 22-124, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation confirming the nomination of Tim Wheeler to serve on the Muskogee Loan Fund Board. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion, Representative Randolph.
Mr. Wheeler?
Good afternoon, Mr. Wheeler. Thank you for being with us. If you'll
afternoon.
provide us a brief summary of who you are and your experience with the position that you've been nominated for, please.
My name is Tim Wheeler. How about that?
Thank you.
I reside in Muskogee, where I work in the family business, co-owning and operating for the last 50 plus years. I'm currently on the airport board in Muskogee, the Port Authority in Muskogee, and the City Council. If appointed to this, I look forward to working with the council and the Christopher. Hopefully, we can put that together.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Any questions from the committee for Mr. Wheeler? Representative Randolph?
If I could I have Mr. Coburn come down? I'd like Mr. Coburn to explain to us why he's brought Mr. Wheeler up for nomination. I see you got a very great resume. You're very credentialed, and it's impressive. But I'd like to. Mr. Coburn knows what we really need, so we're going to let him talk for a second. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me okay? What would you like me to explain, Councilman Randolph?
Why you brought Mr. Wheeler before nomination and confirmation?
We're fortunate with Mr. Wheeler and his family with Wheeler Metals in Muskogee. They're one of the biggest steel suppliers in the area. One of the things that I'm thankful for, and also in the back is our chairwoman, Lou Ann Hudson, on our board, is the board took initiative when we weren't getting much response to find more professionals with more business experience to expand the breadth and depth of our board. What I hope to find as the executive running the loan fund is a breadth of experience, people that have been on other boards that can give guidance and see things that I may not see, so collectively we can run what we're doing for our citizens better. Also, Tim's been on a bank board for a long time. He's a great guy, but I don't think he's that comfortable in front of a microphone, but very good at what he does. But him being on a bank board will help us both with what we do now and also for the hopes of something in the future as a different type of financial institution if we ever get to having depository. So attracting qualified candidates with a breadth of business experience will help us also as we help our entrepreneurs. But mainly it'll help us with governance. And so I'm very excited that he was recommended, and I got to visit with him and we talked about family. And I think he would help me a lot as far as how I lead and help the board as far as what they do.
Thank you, Mr. Coburn. Any questions from the committee?
Madam Chair?
Ms. Golden, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is a question for Mr. Wheeler, and that is, Mr. Wheeler, what is your interest and understanding of the Muskogee Loan Fund for the Muskogee Creek Nation?
To hopefully move it forward into the future and improve on what Christopher has already established with that loan fund and the principle behind it.
Okay, and also, what is the most important thing that you have that you believe you could bring to the table?
Leadership.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Coburn,
Yes.
what kind of tools do you use to recruit or advertise for your board positions? I know you made the comment that he was recommended to you, so do you not advertise or search yourself?
We make known to the way our current law is, council has 3 nominees to our board that when vacancies come up, and two is whichever vacancy comes up during whichever principal chief is in
I'm
office.
sorry, sir. Can you speak on the microphone?
Okay, I'm sorry. So when I said that, we made known to the ex officios and the accountability to council and to executive branch of the vacancies when the other two persons stepped down, one retired and one decided that they did not want to seek a renewal term. I think there's wisdom in counsel of many, and people's personal and professional networks know people that I may not know. And so I asked the board to help us find people that could help build on their skills and build on what we're trying to do. So that's what I meant by that, is using professional networks and others to seek out people that are competent in their fields that can add expertise to help us govern better. And then those that happened to have two vacancies that happened a month apart, but by the time they came to council, they were one chief pick and one council pick. And then we asked for those to be forwarded to leadership of the tribal agencies for consideration, because we thought that expertise could help us continue to do what we're doing and improve on it for the future. So no advertising per se, more just finding people that have competency, that can help us, that are interested in helping us. If I misspoke, I apologize, Councilman Hicks.
No, it's okay. I just wanted clarification. So, all right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Hicks. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. 22-124 passes. Thank you, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank
As
you.
stated earlier, pre-agenda is Saturday, July 30th at 9 a.m. It'll be here. We'd like for you to be here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coburn. (22-125), a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the submittal of a letter of declaration with the Federal Aviation Administration for the benefit of the Muskogee Creek Nation Light Horse Police Department. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion to pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion, Representative Randolph.
Chief Phillips. Thank you, Madam Chair.
State Council. Before I've mentioned that we have departments inside of our department, special operations team. About now, can you hear me now? Before I had mentioned we had departments inside of our special operations team inside of Light Horse. This is for our drone program, and Investigator Jackson is over that program. And I'd like to introduce Jinx Officer John Fitzpatrick, who is over their drone program, and he has some more information. If I'll let him divulge that, but I'll turn the time over to Investigator Jackson.
Here's Jay Council. So I was just recently appointed as a drone commander for Light Horse PD. I'm looking to set up the program to not only assist our citizens, but also protect our officers that are on the ground. This is a stepping stone, the first stepping stone in order to create that program to get recognized by the Federal Aviation's so that we are allowed to do that in a law enforcement capacity. Mr. Fitzpatrick is basically mentoring me through this process. He has a wealth of knowledge, and if there's any questions I can't answer, that's why I asked him to join me. He will be able to answer those as well.
Any questions?
Yes.
Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So your drone program, What actually are you using the drones for?
So my vision would be not only for search and rescue missions, missing children, surveillance, felony arrests on violent criminals. In those instances, our officers are on the ground in harm's way, and if I can protect them in any sort of way, fashion, by having eyes in the sky, those are the types of missions that we would be on.
And these drones, you can use them at night as well. And
Yes,
you
sir.
can see you
Sorry,
can see in woods and everything.
Yes, sir. We are looking into drones that have the infrared capabilities and FLIR, which is thermal imaging capabilities, along with there are some options for these drones to actually follow individuals without an operator if needed to be. Mr. Fitzpatrick actually has video footage of a suspect they took down. When was it? About 30 days, about a month ago. This individual was a violent criminal, was involved in a domestic dispute by strangulation. They got the call. He ran outside the house with a gun. He went in the woods. They couldn't see him. Their drone captain, yes, their captain, who was a drone operator, who was operating their drone, was able to see him at night due to the thermal imaging and infrared capabilities of their drone, which allowed them to coordinate with the on-ground officers to tell them where that subject is and ultimately take him into custody without incident.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair. If you gentlemen don't mind, I need to speak with you after the meeting, if you don't mind, if you have time. All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Golden, go ahead.
thank you. I'm not sure what this has to do with this program, and it sounds very exciting, and I'm very impressed with the idea that you've come forward with this. I don't know if it has anything. My question has anything to do with what you're going to do, but I don't know what our current laws are for like no-fly zones and things that have to do with invading someone's privacy and that sort of thing on the reservation. And are we going to need something like that to make sure that this program can move forward and we won't have any things that make us flip backwards?
I believe Mr. Fitzpatrick can answer that question better than I can.
Thank you.
Could I give a background of myself or anything like that, or just answer the question?
You just answer the question.
The program that we're putting together and putting forth, one of the legal aspects of the program is to have what is called an authorization from the FAA, which allows us to fly in areas. The Muskogee Nation has jurisdiction that covers both the Tulsa International Airport and the Jinx Airport at Riverside. Both of those are highly restricted airspaces. This gives us authorization to operate in those areas. The manual that we will be putting together, which we have now at Jinx and have had for 2 years, the operational manual calls out all of those do's and don'ts from the pilot's perspective so that surveillance is used only in a law enforcement environment for either apprehension or search and rescue. And it very much is restrictive of the pilot's use of these aircrafts. It is for official use only.
Ms. Golden?
Yes, it sounds more like, what you described, it sounds more like what I have my question probably can best be answered by the AG's office or somebody who knows more about our laws and what he just described with the FAA.
Ms. Wisner?
Good afternoon. Would you please repeat your question?
My question is what he described as far as, I'm guessing, do we have in our code of laws that says anybody who comes into this space that we've in agreement with, and we have that agreement with FAA, that it's it has monitoring and oversight and guidance if someone invades that. Does that make sense?
I think what you're talking about is a reasonable expectation of privacy. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there is existing case law, which I would say is Muskogee case law, that establishes what is a reasonable expectation of privacy. This letter and what we're asking to do moving forward will allow us to begin this program. However, I think it will be incumbent upon council as we move forward to reevaluate what those laws may be. As a follow-up, we had recently passed the Supplemental Crimes Act. So that's another aspect that would be able to we can use those laws to be able to regulate what is happening with the drone program. If the council feels that it is too intrusive, or if they would want to look at it in a different way, I would be happy to work with them to further establish our own laws, which will set specific guidelines on what those expectations may be.
Yes, that answers my concern and question. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Thank you, Ms. Weisner. Any other questions? Any questions from the committee? I'm sorry, the representatives in attendance or online? Roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. TR 22-125 passes. Thank you.
Yeah.
TR 22-126, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation confirming the nomination of Matt Dumont to serve on the Muskogee Loan Fund Board. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion to pass.
We have a motion for Dubas from Representative Randolph.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion, Representative Randolph.
Mr. Dumont, are you here?
Thank you for being here, Mr. Dumont.
Thank you for having me.
Will you provide a brief summary of who you are and your experience with the position you've been nominated for, please?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. Very honored to be here and very honored to be nominated to potentially be on this this committee. I currently serve as the Executive Franchise Development Director for Simple Simon's Pizza, a parent company of J&H Foods, Inc. I handle all of our new business transactions. I work closely with lenders. I structure loan packages. So I understand both from the new business development side with the application of that and with what is applicable to the actual loan process. So I think with what Chris has established and with what my conversations with him have been, we'll be able to continue to develop this program and to grow it beyond its current capacity. So,
thank you, Mr. Dumont. Any questions from the committee? Ms. Golden, any questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online?
Madam Chair, Will Lowe.
Speaker Lowe, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I've known Matt Dumont for quite some time. We did a lot of work together and then in Chamber of Commerce. So I really got to work shoulder to shoulder with him and seen that he's a very ethical businessman. So I think it would be a great move for him to serve on our Muskogee Loan Fund. So great seeing you again, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Speaker Lowe. Any other questions? Representative Randolph?
I appreciate you being here today, and I looked at your resume. I seen how many different places you put into play? How many is there? Is it like 50 or your chain? How?
As far as Simple Simon's Pizza is concerned,
Mm-hmm.
yes, we have 225 locations currently open or under contract within 10 states. So,
Very impressive. Thank you so much.
absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. TR 22-126 passes. Mr. Dumont, if you'll grace us with your presence on Saturday, July 30th at 9:00 a.m., and it'll be here.
Sounds good.
We appreciate it. Thank you. TR 22-129. A tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation approving and authorizing the lease agreement, advance addendum, wide area network services addendum for Bollywap Games, an addendum for IGT's Native American Progressive System with Platinum Gaming Ventures, LLC, GCG. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks. We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Mark Randolph. Discussion, Representative Hicks.
Madam Chair, we had Chris Ray. I don't know if he's still on. Andy Langston was on. I don't see him. Ms. Untitled on.
Mr. Hicks, this is Chairman Ray.
Chairman Ray, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me, thank you, Madam Chair. What you have before you is our GCG contract. It basically has been in negotiations for quite some time. It's basically a renewal or an update to the existing contract that we have with GCG. It is before the BF&J Committee and the National Council for approval because per our operating agreement, any contract longer than 3 years requires a tribal resolution for approval. And I will defer to Mr. Langston if there are any specific questions as it relates to the details of this respective contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Mr. Langston, do you have anything to add?
I think Chairman Ray covered it much. It is a renewal. None of the guts of the agreement is changing. The reason why there are 4 things that need to be approved basically is due to the fact that they do provide games. So they're kind of in between. They're a provider of games. So they represent Bally, IGT, almost every vendor that we use, they supply, they place on our floor, and they also do the tech work on it, and they're very proficient at it. A very good partner of ours. And so the Bally WAP, you have to have a licensing agreement with it. So that's what the addendum for, because they're supplying those wide area progressive games. So it's the games that everybody plays. There's a jackpot that grows over time, then that hits and it pays out anywhere with where it's networked. Same way with the IGT's Native American Progressive System. So that's the exact same thing. So we have to assign an addendum for that when we place any of their wide area progressives on our floor. The authorization, the advance addendum. So for floor space, we do receive a certain amount of funds, which you can see in the packet. So that will have to be signed for us to receive those funds. And then the meat of the agreement, which is just the lease agreement between GCG and us. Again, nothing has changed within that. We've kept our game counts the same, but we've increased the amount per game that they're paying us, which is good for the nation. And that's a very high level explanation of the contract. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Langston. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. TR 22-129 passes. TR 22-130, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the Muskogee Nation Gaming Enterprises, LLC, Mnge, to deposit additional funds in the Muskogee Creek Nation Casinos Insurance Reserve Fund. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion. Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairman Ray, would you like to address this, please?
Yes, sir, Representative Hicks. Thank you. Back in 2021, the gaming enterprises approached the National Council about creating an insurance reserve fund, primarily for two reasons. As our total insured value increases across our gaming enterprises, naturally the cost of insuring those respective properties and all of our assets has increased, and last year it increased astronomically. Second, because of the historic flood that we had in 2019 at River Spirit, even though we had insurance on the property, the insurance was not enough to cover basically all of our losses. During very prosperous times within the gaming enterprises, we thought it was very prudent to basically create this account and be able to deposit funds that could alleviate some of the financial strain if, God forbid, we have another flood event like we had in 2019 or any other catastrophe that required a significant amount of money and insurance to basically rehabilitate our properties. So this fund was created in 2021, and we're just asking for the council's blessing to make another deposit into this insurance reserve fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Ray. Any questions for Chairman Ray? Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. TR 22-130 passes. NCA 22-059, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation amending MCNCA Title 37, Chapter 3, Subchapter 8, entitled Drug-Free Workplace, and creating new subsection 3-813 entitled Medical Marijuana License Holder Protection and Non-Discrimination. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph, and this was postponed from June 9th, 2022.
Motion do pass for the substitute.
We have a motion for due pass with a substitute.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion, Representative Randolph.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We postponed this twice to make sure whoever had any input would have time to look it over and provide their input. We were provided input from the Human Resource Department, and that's been added in on the substitute. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Randolph. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. NCA 22-059 substitute passes. NCA 22-075, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation amending MCNCA Title 27, Chapter 1, entitled Authorities, Jurisdiction, and Applicable Law by adopting the standards, rights, and responsibilities defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, the ADA Amendments Act of 2008, and the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, requiring that all services offered by the Muskogee Creek Nation are accessible to its citizens with disabilities. Sponsor, Representative Sandra Golden. This was postponed from June 9th, 2022.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion for due pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Golden. Do I have a second?
Second for discussion.
We have a second from Representative Hicks for discussion. Ms. Golden?
Yes, I don't know that anybody has had any questions since we had the meeting. I tried to provide more information, not only why I did this, but also what it really means. And what it really means is that it helps strengthen our codes that we already have and helps whenever we say to the funding agencies that we comply with ADA requirements, we already have that in place, and this helps us do that. It's not just for people with physical impairments, it's also for those who have mental and emotional impairments. And it covers employment, it covers transportation services. It covers everything that says we provide all of these accommodations for people with disabilities. I think one of the concerns that people had was, what is this going to cost us? Well, we already have most all of those things in place. I do understand and know that we need to improve, and there's always room for improvement, but more importantly, when we move forward with our new master plan, that all of these buildings are up to code and they are equivalent to what is required by the ADA.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Haskins pretty much wrote all of this, and just based on the conversation that we had and the understanding that I have about what is required for American Disabilities Act. And I'm not sure if he's here or not, but I hope he is, and we could ask him questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Ms. Golden.
Thank you.
Committee, any questions regarding the legislation? Representative Randolph?
My question is, my recollection is the reason we postponed this bill was to ensure that you, as a sponsor, went back and spoke with Human Resource Department or any department that this legislation might affect. And were you able to do that?
No, sir, I did not do that. The programs that I am familiar with says that we already do that. And I know that our Human Resources Department and all of the others that's just something that they post on their wall. And I've been an employee before, so I know that those things are in place.
Chief, could somebody come and speak to this, one of your representatives, or are we?
I reached out to HR to find out if any National Council representatives have reached out to them. And as of I guess yesterday, no one has reached out to them. I have brought Mr. Hurd here to kind of discuss the codes and the compliance of the ADA for today. And he can give you an update on the buildings and everything as they are now, if you'd like to hear that.
Question.
Ms. Golden, go ahead.
Madam Chair, can I speak?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Hullaby, when I said I didn't check with anybody because I understood that we already have these things in place. We just don't have that our tribal nation is in compliance or requires this compliance, and that's what this legislation is about. So do we not already have, like Human Resources and those other programs that say they are in compliance with all of the state guidelines and the federal guidelines that have to do with the Disabilities Act?
Yes, we have Mr. Hurd here. He is our code enforcer, and I have been speaking with him recently about ADA compliance, and most of our buildings are in compliance, and the master plan will be in compliance with ADA. But if you'd like to speak with him a little more, just to know where we're at on that, some of the older buildings aren't yet, but we are looking at those areas.
Okay, again, this doesn't add any additional to what is already there. What this does is put in place tribal nation for the Muskogee Creek Nation. It strengthens our law that says we have our own compliance and we do this. That's, you know, we accommodate when we can. And basically what it says is these are our codes. We
Ms.
don't have to
Ms.
go
Golden,
by
Ms.
those
Golden,
are-
you're cutting out real bad. And it's really hard to understand what you're saying.
I don't know what to say, except that this doesn't add anything additional. It's just what,
Ms. Golden,
yeah.
we can't understand what you're saying. You're cutting out.
Is Mr. Haskins available?
Mr. Haskins is here, yes. Mr. Haskins, if you would come forward, please.
I think what Representative Golden was saying is we're already required to be ADA compliant. This is really a recitation that we are in compliance. Whenever we apply for federal grants, we're obligated to represent that we are ADA compliant. This does not, I think it's as important to say that it does not subject us to the jurisdiction of either the state or the federal government for oversight purposes. This does not require us to dig extensively for funding to make changes. We just have to make reasonable accommodations to those buildings or structures that we have that are not currently ADA compliant. It requires just reasonable opportunities or reasonable accommodations to try to bring them into compliance as we can. So it really doesn't impose a greater structure or a greater obligation on the nation. It's an acknowledgement of those responsibilities we already have placed upon us.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Any questions from the council representatives in attendance or online? Representative Randolph?
My apologies, but I support everything that this bill stands for. I guess my concern was the professional courtesy of it. Did we extend our professional courtesy to make sure anything that we got to do to satisfy this, have we spoke with the executive branch about it? Are we prepared for that? That was my only concern. Other than that, I understand. It's just kind of confusing for me because I'm looking at, and I know there's some things that have to be added. How can we say it's not going to cost money? And I guess that's my thing. If it's going to cost money, where is it going to come from? That's where I was just wanting to make sure everything was in place, if that makes sense. But thank you.
And I apologize. It's a little hard for me to hear sometimes too, but I think your question was, where's the money come from to make the changes that are necessary? The reality is we're already obligated to make these changes. So it should have already been budgeted in with regard to our master plan, improvements to buildings. So it's not new funds that we would be having to dedicate to making any kind of remedial measures or changes. These are monies that we're already obligated to spend to make these improvements.
Committee, any questions? Representative Hicks?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to postpone this for 1 month and maybe work with Mr. Hullaby and I don't know the gentleman's name, Mr. Hurt. Work with him on this legislation and then HR or whoever needs to be involved and then bring it back. I agree with Representative Randolph and Ms. Golden. I mean, I like it, but I just think we should get correct people involved in it as well. So anyway, I'll make that motion.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor to postpone until the next BFNJ meeting. We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against, to postpone NCA 22-05 until the next BF&J meeting. A law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the creation of MCNCA, Title 14, Chapter 1, Subchapter 11, entitled Insanity of Accused, Determination of Competence. Sponsor is Representative Sandra Golden.
Madam Chair,
Representative Golden,
motion to do pass.
we have a motion for due pass from Representative Golden. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Ms. Golden?
Is Mr. Wiley available?
Mr. Wiley, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank Representative Golden for sponsoring this legislation. I want to thank Kyle Haskins for reviewing our draft and making recommendations to improve it. And I want to thank Alicia Strobel for editing and formatting the draft so this legislation is in a presentable form for the National Council's consideration. Under our law and the federal law of the Indian Civil Rights Act, a person who is incompetent to stand trial cannot be convicted of a crime. If we did that, to do that would be a violation of that person's due process. Our law provides that that cannot be done, but there are our law on competency in the criminal realm is one sentence long. Our law does not tell us how to determine if a person is incompetent. Our law doesn't tell us who's qualified to make that determination. And if it's determined that a criminal defendant is incapacitated, what do we do with that person? Do we simply release them back on the streets or do we offer treatment? This legislation hopefully sets out this process. I believe it does, for making application to determine if a defendant is competent to stand trial. It sets forth who is qualified to determine if the defendant is competent to stand trial. And this legislation sets out 7 questions that a qualified forensic examiner has to consider to determine if the defendant is competent to stand trial. The legislation sets out a process for helping an incompetent person to return or be restored to competency by marshaling the resources of the nation's healthcare network if competency can be restored to that person. And if a defendant cannot be restored to competency, this legislation provides for the secure placement of a defendant until that person is no longer a danger to himself or other persons. And it provides for a referral to the nation's Adult Protective Services to monitor that person for that person's safety. This legislation is something we've needed for a long time. We have to have something like this. And I ask the committee to approve this legislation and pass it on for the full National Council consideration. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley. Any questions for Mr. Wiley? Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online? Roll call vote, please.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. NCA 22-087 passes. NCA 22-088, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation amending MCNCA Title 35, Chapter 12, entitled Donations. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion to pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph. I have a second.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion, Representative Randolph.
Mr. Zach Carjo, please.
Shea again, Council. So this legislation removes the section about political donations from, let's see, Title 35, Chapter 12, and with the intention that National Council will be involved with its lateral movement to Title 25, Chapter 6, under working with the Government Relations Office or function of the Secretary of the Nation that has been proposed. Our recommendation so far is that we kind of streamline our political givings process because to date, we're one of the, I would say we're the only large tribe that doesn't have a more streamlined process that would allow us to contribute or, support political candidates in a fashion that is expected from that realm of society. Unfortunately, the current procurement process for any political donations really exceeds what candidates are expecting, or and if they're going to do favors for the nation or do something beneficial, it really just kind of exceeds their timeline typically. And the proposed legislation definitely involves National Council, so that there's still regulatory and oversight provided by council in whoever the nation decides to provide political donations to. My further comments would be that political donations simply aren't donations to individuals. They help form legislation, they help form partnerships, public affairs and goals and responsibilities that the nation looks to enforce and empower among its peers itself as well as the state.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. Any questions for Mr. Harjo? Questions for Mr. Harjo from the representatives in attendance or online?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Golden?
I hope you can hear me. My question is, what is the intent of this legislation, and is it taking away from what we already do, that we don't have any special appropriations for anything?
The intent of this legislation is to streamline the process while still involving National Council and involving oversight. And the legislation that's proposed next is certainly open for discussion and revision if National Council wants a larger part. I just, based on our experience, the current way that our laws are set up to provide political donations are not done so in a timely fashion. And that really leaves us in a disadvantage for any political candidate or a legislative initiative that we would like to participate in, because, like I said, our process for legislation and giving to candidates is really lengthy, and it essentially bars us from having any say directly during voting sessions and any sort of upcoming political seasons.
So this just approves the process if the council chooses to open up a special appropriations?
Yes. Well, this removes the section, let's see, in Chapter 35, or Title 35, Chapter 12, there's a section, I believe it's Section A possibly, that gives National Council the ability to make those political donations up to $50,000. And then, of course, there's limits on how much you can give an individual, but essentially it strikes that portion and allows for the establishment of a different governing or a different body working with the Secretary of the Nation's office to be able to provide those distributions in a more timely fashion, where we're not having to come to council for every single request from a political candidate, because of course that process takes anywhere from 30 to 90 days, and the expectation among political candidates is typically, within 1 to 2 weeks. And so since we're never able to meet that, it really puts us on the short end of the stick when it comes to negotiating legislation, political candidates, and other, like I said, public affairs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Any other questions for Mr. Harjo? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. NCA 22-088 passes. NCA 22-089, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation creating new law by establishing government relations in MCNCA, Title 25, Chapter 6, and appropriating funds for the remaining of fiscal year 2022. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion to pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion, Representative Randolph.
Call Mr. Harjo again.
Ms. J, I will provide a brief overview, but if it's okay with the council, I'd like to invite our government relations specialist, Kathleen Elliott, to provide a little bit more further detail. So as mentioned in the previous NCA 22088, it essentially moves the political donations from Title 35, Chapter 12 to Title 25, Chapter 6, and further establishes the government relations function of the Secretary of the Nation and Commerce. And essentially, so the request for $50,000, I'll be quite frank, is a drop in the hat compared to what other tribes spend. Anecdotally, Chickasaw spends over $1 million. And Choctaw Nation's Government Relations Department has funding annually of anywhere from $800,000 to $1 million a year. That doesn't mean that that has to be our approach, but by not having a more streamlined process, as I mentioned before, we're really not at the table. And for a nation of our size and the amount of sovereignty that we have to defend in each and every public affairs beef battle and conversation that we have, I think it's incredibly important that we have at least something in place to help us divvy out political donations that might be to our benefit. And like I said, they're not just political donations. I would look at them as the potential to influence not just political campaigns, but proposed legislation, our partnerships with state and federal officials, and not just those officials, but the governing bodies that the tribe complies with and partners with as well. And the intent of this legislation for the $50,000 for political donations is not just geared for state or local, although that is will invest heavily in those partnerships because they've borne a lot of fruit over the years, but also for our federal partners as well. One of the examples that unfortunately our lobbyist and government relations team that exists through Jonadev Chahiri and Tom Brereton, they talk about the investments that other tribes make on both their local scale, but their national scale as well, to really provide positive impacts for their tribal nations as well as essentially all tribes. And this allows us to get a foot on the table, or a foot in the door, I should say, to be able to contribute in a manner that is, I would believe, more becoming of a nation our size and our stature.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. Are there any questions? Representative Randolph?
I'd like to call Miss Elliott also.
Miss Elliott?
Ms. J, Madam Chair and Council, thank you for having us today. It's my distinct honor to be here and be able to brag actually on our government relations department and the ability of a small group of people to get a large message out. I believe that one of the most important responsibilities we have in the administration is to improve the quality of our citizens. And there are many ways we can do this, but the most important one is advocacy and being able to advocate for our policies, being able to advocate for our citizens. And we have done an outstanding job as a tribe. However, as you know, there are ceilings to that, and the fact that we can connect with county, municipal, federal, state partners who are our legislative counterparts to be able to bring a more unified and increased prosperity to our citizenship. So with the advent of the last political season, our team has received calls almost daily. I mean, 3 times a week would probably be a minimum that candidates are calling us. And if you paid attention to the congressional district number 2, there were 14 candidates, and out of that, 6 of them at least were tribal citizens. One of them was our own citizen, Choctaw, Cherokee. So I'm just very excited about the passion and the level of the Native citizens to say we need a voice at the Capitol. We need a voice in the federal government. We have also a congressman who is a Muskogee Creek citizen running in Minnesota, and so we have a current employee of our tribe that's going to be running for House District 71. So a way and a vehicle that would be efficient as well as practical
critical to be able to help that would provide actually transparency, advocacy, and teamwork in the way that the legislation is set up. Also, we've done a lot of community building, and one of my passions is to be able to allow for Muskogee Creek citizens to have a seat at a board. So recently, the Oklahoma State Legislature created the Rural Broadband Board, and they specifically made a seat for a Native American tribe in that, which is a huge step forward. Recently, you all are also aware of the House Bill 3501, which was an excellent piece of legislation for public safety. It was run by one of our neighboring tribes, and we supported it. The governor vetoed it, and then 98% of the Senate and the House passed it to just overwhelmingly override the governor's veto because they felt like the importance of tribal courts convictions for DUI makes Oklahoma safer, and that we have shared citizenry that this department could serve. So I wanted to just tell you that our government relations team with Ambassador Chowdhury, Tom Brierton, Fred Jordan, who is our state lobbyist, who is a former legislator, and JAG, myself, we have Heather Griffin, we have Dr. Lance Fry, we have Jeff Fife, we have executive branch. And so this gives the team the ability to work together with transparency, teamwork, and advocacy.
Thank you, Ms. Elliott. Any questions for Ms. Elliott or Mr. Harjo? National Council representatives in attendance or online, any questions?
Madam Chair.
Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's really not a question, really a statement, I guess. And I think I made it last time. It's kind of hard for me to support this, honestly. I'm 50-50 because I feel like we've been burned several times by political candidates that have came and asked for money, asked for our support, and we give it, and then we never hear from them. So I'm just sitting here thinking, how many political candidates are in our corner on our McGirt ruling? I haven't heard anybody come forth and say, hey, we're back in Muskogee Creek Nation. You made the comment, we need a voice, and we do. But are we buying that voice? Is that what we're doing? Why can't these candidates come and actually do it from the heart, like what we do? That's why it's hard for me to support this. I know why you need the money. I know what you're doing with it. I know what you're trying to do, I should say. But holding them to their word is what I have a problem with. I can't, it's hard for me to justify giving somebody $2,000, $5,000 saying, I'll help you any way I can, give them the money, and then we never hear from them or see them. And that's happened time and time again. So that's why it's hard for me. Right now, I'm on 50-50. I don't know. We're fixing to vote, and I don't know how I'm going to vote. Just for that reason. It's because we've been burned. And I've seen it, and I've heard it. So I just wanted to share that information. Like I said, I know what you're doing, and I know what you're trying to do, but just being burned so many times, it makes it difficult. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hicks. Representative Randolph.
I understand what Representative Hicks is saying. I'm someone that has a hard time trusting people. And, we look at our history and we see a lot of broken promises. But I also know that this is a new time. There's different ways to skin a cat, I guess you would say, and there's different strategies. And I think for a long time we've tried the same things, and at one point we have to step out. And we've there's just certain ones, and we've seen it, but we got to remain hopeful and optimistic that people that do come forward and give their word. I mean, to give your word in our way was something that meant something at one time. When you give your word, you're only good as your word. And so we see these folks, and like Mr. Hicks was saying, I want them to know that we realize that, and that I know there's a lot of things that you got to do in politics, and Main Street politics are different than ours somewhat. More and more, I see us leaning over to this side and taking on their same tactics, which aren't always good. But I'm hopeful that we can go forward with this, and let's try. That's what I'd like to say. Let's try and hope and pray that the right people that with the right heart and a good heart will come forward and will work more for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Randolph. Mr. Harjo?
Yes.
No.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead. Representative Harjo, go ahead.
okay, I thought you were speaking to me. Um, well, I think this is a good thing. And I agree that sometimes we can miss opportunity if we're sitting back and we're haggling over in which way we're going to go with the monies and how we're going to spend the monies. Because, as with business and anything else, and politics, unfortunately, has become a big business. And so it moves quite fast. And so I think that sometimes, unfortunately, in the secular world outside of the tribe, a seat has to be bought at those tables on occasion. And hopefully, we have those seats because we are donating. Unfortunately, they may not come back to the tribe so much, but at least that allows us that seat at the table to be and sit with them. It is a particular new time, and considering the climate politics today, out there in the secular world, I know it's just going to be, our world is really difficult as it is, and we can see that their world is difficult too. And so I'm sure that because, I say I'm sure, I hope that through these donations that at least, we're able to get those phone calls in and to be able to get that sit down time with them. So that way we can see that, they are taking seriously, what it is that we're able to donate to them. But I also agree with what you're talking about, Mr. Harjo, and the fact that, we may not be donating, several hundred thousands to one opponent, but at least we're able to buy seats in a lot of different areas, be it through, with a candidate or through legislation or whatever it might be. And right now, I think we need as much help as we can get. It's difficult to really know who to trust anymore, but unfortunately, that's always been a part of the political world. And so therefore, I think now, if we're going to do anything, we're going to have to do it now, or we're going to have to sit back and it's going to be even that much more difficult for us to fight for our sovereignty. And that's something that I have a concern about. And I think this is why this is such a good deal. So that way we don't waste or make any hesitations. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Harjo. Mr. Harjo, would you like to respond?
Yes, yes, and I would like to address your concerns, Mr. Hicks. The first one being that we've had, political candidates, not return any favors back to the nation. And I think addressing this is actually, there's a lot of room for hope. Like Kathleen Elliott just mentioned, the governor vetoed a bill that would help everyone. And because of our strong support within the state legislature, they were able to override that veto and benefit not just the citizens of Oklahoma that are non-tribal, but our own tribal jurisdiction and our own tribal citizens who are under the jurisdiction of the nation, as well as our partner tribes. And as she mentioned, there are a number of political candidates that are tribal and that are directly within our area. And I think it would, now's the time to support them. We have, like I said, we have a lot of pro-tribal legislatures within the state, as well as outside of the state as well. And if we're not at that table, we're allowing Chickasaw Nation or whoever else invests so much more than we do to be our voice. And often their initiatives, their goals are very different than ours. And the other thing that you phrased it as, buying votes or buying a seat at the table. That unfortunately is a lot of times the case. But the other half of that, I would say the other half of that sword is education and starting a conversation. I would like to believe that a lot of the candidates that are up and coming now, especially in light of McGirt, it's important that they reach out to the tribe, and we don't have a function right now that would respond to them in a manner that they're expecting. And so this kind of provides that, provides a way to move forward with all of that, but also I think there's a lot of room for hope, and not necessarily, with the governor's administration, but with the state legislatures and our partners, and we can and do have an impact on those elections and those campaigns.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Harjo, thank you for your words. And I do understand where you're coming from. I hope you just understand where I'm coming from, because I'm looking at, like I said, just being burned, because I'm looking at that's money that could go to health, education, other than being burnt with it. That's all I was saying and everybody's saying hope. Well, I had hope. I had hope that they would keep their word, and they didn't. So that's what I'm dealing with. And like I said, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to vote still yet. It's 50-50. I do know we need it. Like you said, we do need a plate at the table, but it's just being burned by somebody saying, I'll be there, I'll be your voice, and then they're not, or we never hear from them or see them. But anyway, I do understand what you're saying. And I understand what everybody's getting at. So, yeah, to play the game, you have to be in the game. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative Hicks. Any questions from representatives online or in
Madam-
attendance? Representative Golden?
Yes. My view is kind of similar to Mr. Hicks, Representative Hicks. At the same time, I understand, that this is to establish the Office of Government Relations, and it, it looks like from the organization chart that we received, it provides some information, but I'm still trying to figure out more about the government relations, and it's kind of turned into the most important part is to put, be able to make the donations. But Mr. Harjo, you mentioned meeting with and educating the government people for the state and for the federal, and I'm understanding that's going to be the main effort of this government relations office. But I don't see like who's going to be doing that and exactly how are they going to be doing it besides giving the $50,000. And I'd just like to see that. So I would like to make a motion that we postpone this, and so that we can see that you can put this in here so that we know exactly more what the government relations office is going to look like and how this monies will be donated in a more specific manner that it's going to really, we have more chances of it helping than hindering what we're trying to do. And I want to make that motion to postpone for 30 days.
We have a motion on the floor from Representative Golden to postpone NCA 22-089 until the next BF&J meeting, 30 days. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Hearing none, the motion to postpone for 30 days fails. So we still have any discussion on NCA 22-089? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
No.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 2 in favor and 1 against.
We have 2 in favor, 1 against. NCA 22-089 passes. Ms. Killian, we need a funding source.
Yes, Madam Chair, it would be interest on permanent fund.
Okay, the funding source for this is interest on permanent fund. Okay, thank you.
Mado.
Thank you, Mado.
NCA 22-090, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation approving and authorizing the principal chief to execute and file articles of organization with the Office of the Secretary of the Nation to form Muskogee Nation Business Holding, LLC, under the Muskogee Creek Nation Limited Liability Company Act, and approving the operating agreement for Muskogee Nation Business Holdings, LLC. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion?
Madam Chair.
Representative Hicks?
Oh, I'm sorry. Madam Chair, we have Chris Ray or Ms. Yon Tiger online that could elaborate on this.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tiger or Chairman Ray?
Thank you, Chairwoman and BFJ Committee. This legislation is to create another LLC to allow for gaming to operate other gaming entities such as non-tribal commercial gaming, and then consulting with other tribes or helping them manage their casinos with other tribes, so consulting and management agreements. I believe that the chairman of Mnge has recently discussed with the committee during the monthly reports that there are opportunities that have become available that came up very, very quickly when we created Mnge. We discussed several times with the committee and with the National Council as a whole that we would need additional LLCs for these type of economic ventures, excuse me. And it is an adventure, actually. We just didn't know that we would have traction immediately when Mnge went live in April. Actually, this is a great testament to the executive team for our gaming in that its reputation, both state and industry nationwide, and their capabilities and the stability that they have in one of these entities wanting to hire them to work for them. In order to not commingle these companies or monies with Mnge, we just need the separate holding company so that we can work through that holding company to create other arms. If this is approved, I believe we can negotiate and enter contracts in the next couple of months, and hopefully next month.
Thank you, Ms. Tiger. Any questions for Ms. Tiger from the committee? Any questions from the council representatives online or in attendance? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. NCA 22-090 passes. Next item on the agenda is referred legislation. NCA 22-082, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the appropriation for the construction of a bus barn for the Tulsa Head Start Center. Ms. Killian, would you please provide us a funding source?
Yes, that is going to be capital improvements.
Okay, the funding source is capital improvements. Committee, I need a motion to approve the funding source.
Make a motion that we approve the funding source.
We have a motion from Representative Randolph to approve the funding source of capital improvement for NCA 22-082.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
The funding source for NCA 22-082 passes. Next item on the agenda is other business.
Madam Chair,
Representative Hicks.
I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda TR 22132.
We have a motion from Representative Hicks to add TR 22-132.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
Okay, the motion to add TR 22-132 passes. TR 22-132, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the execution of a release and waiver of liability, assumption of risk, and indemnity agreement with 555 Fitness. Sponsor is Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, make a motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion, Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief Phillips, would you like to come down and
Thank you. Yes, I was going to divert that question to my administrative assistant. She has that and she's online. Angela?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Can y'all hear?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Your name is Angela?
Yes, ma'am, thank you for hearing me. This is in reference to a grant that we're hoping to apply for. We would need a waiver to protect 555 from lawsuit if there was any injury sustained using the equipment that they would provide should we be awarded the grant. The grant is for fitness equipment. We've lost a bunch in the flood, and we'd like to invest more in the physical fitness of our officers, and this grant would help us greatly.
Thank you, Angela. Do you need to add anything, Chief Phillips?
No, I just wanted to make sure y'all could understand her. That was for fitness equipment for the officers to stay.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
yes?
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. TR 22-132 passes. Next item on the agenda is other business.
Madam Chair,
Representative Hicks.
make a motion go into executive session.
We have a motion from Representative Hicks to go in executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph, Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against to go in executive session.
Who would you like to stay? Alrighty, just a second.
We are out of executive session at 6:06. No action was taken. Next item on the agenda is announcements. Any announcements? No announcements. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. Representative Hicks makes a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Randolph. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Representative Hicks, if you'll provide us the benediction, please.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this day that you blessed us with. And Lord, we thank you for the meeting that we had. Some eyes were opened, I think, and understanding. And we all did what we did for the best of the nation and our citizens. And Lord, we just ask that you have traveling grace on the ones that are leaving here and everybody that's traveling this evening. And Lord, we just give it all to you in your loving name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Representative Hicks. We are adjourned at 6:00.
If you will sign that for me, please.